So I live in Shorts Hall on campus, and the community there is very tight and everything, but I remember one late night, like usually on my floor, people just chill out in the lounge and just talk about random stuff. But I remember one time a girl said that she's from upstate New York. She said that she refers to all Black or African American people as brown people. And personally, because I have a Black roommate as well with me, and I don't know how I felt about this. I felt it was kind of like degrading to our people. And my roommate, I was looking to him to see what he had to say about the situation, and he seemed very passive about the whole thing, just saying oh, she could say it if she wants. And I just feel like JMU kind of in a way, I feel like JMU would kind of do that to their students to make them passive and not speak out about these kinds of issues. So that's just my personal experience.
I liked my RA. I didn't like my dorm mates for my first dorm. I didn't like them because all the girls were from New Jersey and they were the same and they linked up together, which was fine, but then they assumed that me and my roommate didn't like them when I actually didn't even like my roommate. She was Black and I was Black and the rest of them were white, and they assumed that me and her were friends for whatever reason, despite me not ever hanging out with my roommate.
I think when I lived in the dorms, it was, I guess, students coming in from high school have not faced a lot of diversity or have their notions challenged. So I don't think it was malintent, but more of lack of knowledge or ignorance on some residents' part. This happened when I was an RA and when I was a freshman.
I've seen professors in my human communications class, they don't really dare to venture into those kinds of topics just because it's so controversial, but they're also very important. So whenever something moderately close to a topic about social injustice is brought up in the classroom or the lecture hall, it's usually just shut down immediately, because we on to the next topic.
With students, it's just, I just felt left out most of the time, especially with group projects. All of the time they just felt like you're not one of them and you don't pronounce words the same way they do, and almost you don't really have anything of value to say. And I mean, for me personally, I definitely felt a lot like I was just being overlooked or brushed aside.
Freshman year, my ethical reasoning class, a lot of the students would try to talk about what they thought minorities were experiencing, but it was really awkward because it was coming from their point of view and they weren't minorities. It was just I've had people in my class assume that I was here because I was on a sports team. And then I guess they get shocked when they realize that I'm smarter than them because I actually apply.
There were often misconceptions and stereotypes. People would ask, maybe people would expect that I was here on a scholarship because, in Africa, they're all poor and hungry, and so there's no way I could afford to be here unless, it was being paid for fully by some other outside source.
I feel like JMU can make it more of a safer and healthier community to speak out against these things without fear of persecution or any form of backlash.
I would say that JMU could probably do more in hiring staff that represents more of the population of this country.
I think what we have is sufficient. We have CMIS, we have many workshops, many talks, many diversity talks, many different types of culture clubs that try to spread their awareness. But I mean, if people choose not to listen to it, there really isn't much you can do except continue what we're doing now.
I wouldn't say that there's not discrimination. There's always going to be discrimination, and that's something innate in humans that our brains, or there's a whole nature versus nurture thing. I've come to terms with who I am as a Black man on JMU's campus, and I felt like this campus has accepted me, and a lot of times I feel like my reputation or my pedigree speaks before my color or precedes my colors.
I just feel if we can mend the divide between majority and minority on campus, it could be a more welcoming community for all people at JMU, including like the African American community, just like be more accepting of each other and our viewpoints on certain issues, rather than just like see it as like, okay, they can have their views, I'll have my own views.
I would urge minorities who are dealing with these problems to think about themselves first. This a quote that really helped me sort of come to terms was, it says, "He who knows others is wise, but he who knows himself is enlightened." So I sort of took that as, I know what people might say and I know what people might perceive at me, but I know who I am and I know what I can be. So at that point, stuff really ceased to bother me anymore.